This is so comical that it's like something the Joker would do in a Batman subplot. It is like cliche. I'm saying it. Speaking of conservatives and restaurants and conservatives attending restaurants, this conversation between Libs of TikTok's very own Chaya Reactions and Taylor Lorenz is a perfect demonstration, in my opinion, of what it looks like when you are a reactionary conservative online doing the same nonsensical, idiotic bullshit in public, especially against someone who is, you know, sane. Now, the reason why this interview is uploaded on the Taylor Lorenz YouTube page is also funny. I know the actual details because I reached out to Taylor after this interview popped off a couple days ago. I was like, Taylor, how the fuck did you get access to this person like this unfettered, unfiltered access for 55 minutes? Taylor told me it was actually Chaya that personally was willing to sit down with her as long as she filmed the process herself. It was actually Chaya's assistant that was filming this interview. The conversation was supposed to take place for 10 minutes max. Taylor wrote an article about Nex, the non-binary 16-year-old that was brutalized and beaten up by 3 older students in an Oklahoma school, who then died a day later. Now, Taylor had written about the article. Taylor had written about this situation, and Chaya Reactions is, of course, for those of you who don't know, a psychopathic, right-wing, crazy lady that runs the Libs of TikTok account. This account is, I guess, like a clear-cut definition of a stochastic terrorist, an account that is specifically involved in, you know, doing terror to trans people. I don't know how else to describe it. Her entire purpose is to find random queer people in you know, places of regular business and out them, or not out them specifically, but like lie about them, call them groomers and pedophiles to her audience of psychopathic, bloodthirsty, monstrous, transphobic losers. It is not even just a cyber lynch mob. Cyber lynch mob is adequate. However, it's not just a cyber lynch mob. It actually has real world consequences, because as a hate monger, when there is a person or even an institution like a hospital, for example, in Chaya's crosshairs, that hospital will always get suspiciously a litany of death threats for all the medical professionals that work there, and even bomb threats, as a matter of fact. Very famously, bomb threats to a children's hospital. So, just so you understand, and of course, Chaya and Taylor have had very public beef for quite some time. Taylor was the person that found out who she was and basically unmasked her, the anonymous account, and I think she was very valid to do so. Before people go, oh, that's doxing, there is a difference between having a stochastic terrorist account that simply anonymously is engaging in stochastic terrorism, which I think is still worthy of unmasking, versus a stochastic terror account that also was officially collaborating with organs of the government, which Chaya was. Ron DeSantis's own personal spokesperson was working alongside Chaya Reactions, getting notes from her, which made it even additionally more valid as far as journalism goes. She's also one of the dumbest people on the planet. Here's on January 24th, 2023, Libs of TikTok creator Chaya Reactions said, "They made up the term stochastic terrorist for us, so honestly, like, that makes me feel really important."
The stochastic terrorism term, like, for me, like,
no, they did make it up for you. No, they did. I'm giving you the credit. I'm saying they accused me of that, but they didn't make up the word then. They made up the word for you. You are the stochastic terrorist.
They weren't using that term back then.
No, Dora, you woke them up to their full regard. Let me clarify. But they were accusing me of that, but they didn't have a word for it yet. But that's what they accused me of, was it was like intellectually inspiring violence. And then you, being a crazy Nazi Jew, allegedly, you're posting recordings of their actual conversations and their own videos gave them the genius phrase to now make a verbal version of violence. Yeah, but I give you the credit. You're inspiring new forms of right-wing
yay.
hatred.
Can we get
Congratulations.
confetti again? Okay, thank you. Yeah, they literally made that up for like me, Tucker, and Matt Walsh and Chris Rufo. Like they made up the term stochastic terrorist for us. So honestly, like that makes me feel really important. So thank you. Like I just want to thank the left for
that dude being real or playing into it. No, he's like an unabashed fascist himself, of course. Elijah was fired from the Blaze for sexually assaulting a coworker. This is correct. That is Elijah, whatever the fuck his last name is, I forget, who was too much of a sexual assaulter and a sexual harasser for him to be fired from a place that literally is a placeholder and a permanent jobs program for sexual assaulters and sexual harassers that were fired from Fox News. By the way, according to Wikipedia, the term stochastic terrorism was coined in 2002 by Gordon Wu, but the invention term as it is used today was 2011. Chaya is 28 years old. Oh my God. Chaya Reichik is 28 years old. Are you for real right now? God damn, she's so hurt. Holy moly, that is a bad 28, dog. That you should not have told me that. Yo, yikes. Hate ages you like nothing else. I'm 4 years older than her. I'm 4 years older than this woman. That's actually kind of wow. Okay, that's crazy. I did not know that. Oh my God. What is on her shirt? She is wearing a t-shirt that has Taylor Lorenz's face on it because she is insane. She thinks this is cool and fun and funny. But to the average person, to the onlooker from the outside, to the bus driver, if you will, if we're going to talk about, you know, the bus driver thing that I talk about all the time, could you describe, like, how would a bus driver receive you? Like a freak, because she is a freak. So let's continue.
Do you know what, is that a public park or is that a private?
No, private.
Private. All right, well, we'll try to keep it short.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, the struggles of LA, I swear. Okay, well, now that we're going, so thank you so much for meeting. First of all, I saw Seth Dillon today saying that you guys are no longer affiliated. What happened with there? I know that he invested in you early, was a huge supporter of you. What happened to that relationship?
Just parted ways.
For what reason?
Personal reasons.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What, you didn't align
Totally.
Seth Dillon is the CEO of Babylon Bee. Seth Dillon, famous for saying things on the timeline like, oh, this 14-year-old victim of rape is getting to learn the wonders of giving birth. Seth Dillon, who unironically has defended a 14-year-old rape victim being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. Just remember that. That Seth Dillon, owner of Babylon Bee, Mr. Babylon Might Be, that Seth Dillon recognized, that Seth Dillon recognized that the endless amounts of political drama that Chaya Reichik engages in with a sea of death threats that follow anytime she posts about someone was unfortunately too much and too hot for the Babylon Bee. Remember, the reason why I gave you information on Seth Dillon beforehand is so that you understand even guys like that are like, oh, Chaya is a little bit too far and is actually bringing a lot of attention in a negative way and possibly opening us up for legal trouble. So we are going to part ways. At least that is my assessment, my personal assessment on the matter. Something to consider.
Amicable. I love Seth.
Yeah.
He's a great mentor.
So why wouldn't you want him involved, or, you know, why isn't he involved in the business anymore?
Just personal reasons. I'm not going to get into it.
Oh, okay. When did that sort of break off?
Recently.
Uh-huh. So how many staffers? Tell me a little bit more about your organization.
We are a small team, just a couple people.
And it's all distributed?
It's what?
It's all distributed, as in it's all remote, pretty much? Or do you guys have an office space?
It's remote, yeah.
Got it. So when did you start, I guess, what got you into all this? I've always wanted to ask you. I know, I wrote about sort of the history of your Twitter account, but how did you get involved in politics?
If you watch any of my interviews, I talk about this all the time. But just, COVID radicalized me.
Yeah.
And they were like forcing us to wear masks and not letting us leave our homes. And
yeah, the masks radicalized her. Mask wearing. I did speed it up, yes, because I am speeding it up because I don't want to listen to Chaya Babylon for 53 uninterrupted minutes. Okay. I am going to speed through this process 100%.
Not letting us work and people losing their jobs. and then people now forcing a vaccine, an experimental vaccine, people dying from the vaccine.
So how did that get you interested in LGBTQ issues?
It got me interested in politics, and then once I was interested in politics, I stumbled upon this whole movement, and I was absolutely appalled by what I was seeing.
Appalled by what?
The radicalization of it, the way that they come after our most innocent and vulnerable population, or kids. The way that it makes there's nothing logical about it. There's nothing logical about chopping off kids' body parts. There's nothing logical about giving kids porn in school. There's two sexes, and that's it. So, anything out of that, it's just based on lies and nonsense.
Yeah. Did you grow up, I know you grew up in a sort of a more conservative community. Did you know any LGBTQ people growing up? What was your exposure to that community just in life prior to sort of understanding the world through politics?
I never really paid attention to it.
So you didn't have any LGBTQ friends or anything,
No.
family members?
No.
So your first exposure to the LGBTQ world was through basically learning about it through the media ecosystem?
Through themselves, actually. They would say exactly what their intentions are, what their whole movement is about. So I learned about it through watching their own videos.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What sort of videos were you watching? I mean, are you just
All
talking
the
about the TikToks that you share?
And tons more on TikTok. It's all over TikTok.
Yeah.
Very easy to find.
Yeah. I'm curious, I feel like there's been, especially on, my colleagues have done great reporting on sort of like this rift on Twitter. I know that you have a very conservative fan base, and in your comments sometimes you'll see a lot of commentary about sort of the great replacement theory. What are your thoughts on that?
What are your thoughts on the comments on your post telling me to kill myself?
Horrible. Yeah, horrible. Yeah. Obviously against that. Yeah.
So will you come out and condemn that publicly?
Oh, I would condemn it anytime. I'm against murdering anyone, of course.
So you're against death threats against me?
I'm a big, as somebody that's dealt with a lot of online harassment, I don't defend threatening to murder anyone. But I guess I'm curious,
because a lot of times it comes after an attack in the media, like someone like you or another journalist.
So are you saying that, like, if somebody posts something and then attacks follow, that person should answer for those attacks?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that people like you tell me that all the time, so I'm just asking if you think the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think I have said that here, but I think it's kind of interesting, I guess, in the conservative movement, there's this ideology around sort of white nationalism, which is obviously kind of a hardline ideology that's generally been pretty critical of Jewish communities. And I'm wondering, as a Jewish woman, how do you feel about sort of aligning yourself with those people and accounts? You see this sort of rhetoric in your replies, and I only bring it up, I'm not saying that you necessarily endorse that rhetoric, I would imagine that you don't, but how do you kind of think about those nuances when you're thinking about kind of the audience that you're building?
Some of your audience says we should chop off kids' body parts. What do you think about that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like a girl says she wants to be a boy, so she chops off her breasts.
I'm a big, I believe in personal liberty and bodily autonomy personally.
So kids should be able to cut off their breasts if they think that they're boys.
I mean, I believe in gender ideology. I guess I personally, my feeling is that I believe in personal liberty. I grew up in a town where a lot of people, for their middle school graduation, women got nose jobs. I knew somebody that got a boob job at age 14. And I guess I struggle to kind of understand the criticism when there's certainly no criticism of that sort of thing, right? But then there's criticism of this other sort of gender affirming, stuff. So
you're comparing a boy being allowed to chop off his penis to a teenage girl getting a nose job?
Well, just to be extra clear, I don't believe that 13-year-olds are able to make those sort of medical decisions.
Minors are, yeah.
Oh, really? And where?
Children's National Hospital in D.C. gives 16-year-olds hysterectomies.
Oh, 16-year-olds.
They gave me that. They told me that directly. They said 16 girls and younger. That's what they said. So hysterectomies. There are definitely minors. I know for sure I think it's 12 who are getting double mastectomies. They definitely allow vaginoplasties for minors and phalloplasties. I'm not aware of a specific case of a minor, but they allow 18-year-olds. Yeah,
which 18-year-olds, you're an adult. But let's just get back to.
So what she's doing here is maybe unsurprising for you if you're familiar with the way that right-wingers operate, is an exaggeration, okay? It's across the board incorrect. It is not for medical intervention of this kind for minors is heavily scrutinized, okay? And it is only done as a last resort. The notion that they're just like lobbing off 16-year-old titties or whatever the way that she's trying to describe it is crazy. What that factors in is literally like incredibly rare instances of like cancer, okay? The idea that this is a commonplace practice is insane. Okay, like you're talking about breast reduction surgeries for like unique hormone issues and cancer treatment. Okay, it's not trans kids going in and getting this like voluntary procedure without any medical scrutiny whatsoever. Okay, don't use those two words together. I don't know what you're saying. What words? The idea that this is like commonplace, commonplace and super easy to conduct is ridiculous. Okay?
the great replacement stuff, because I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that whole ideology?
I mean, how many, there were times that, there were some months over the past 3 years that there were more illegals coming into our border than children being born in the U.S. Does that not look like they're trying to replace us?
I think one of the funniest parts about this, of course, is that the great replacement theory that she's channeling is objectively a white supremacist Nazi slogan. And of course, those very same white supremacist Nazis that champion the great replacement theory also believe that Jewish people are responsible for said great replacement theory, and Chaya is an Orthodox Jew. So perhaps she's too stupid to recognize that reality. I don't know. Because when people say they are doing great replacement, you are a part of the they, lady. They don't mean like they are doing great replacement. Some might think it's like the liberals or the Democrats, but the real ones, the actual Nazis that have been championing this since the dawn of fascism, have directly laid the blame at Jews.
I guess sort of imagine America as a melting pot. Isn't that sort of what America was founded on?
No, but they're actually bringing in more people than are actually being born.
So I guess it sounds like you sort of do ascribe to this theory of the great replacement. How does that make
I just
you
look
feel?
at the facts and the numbers.
Well, so, I mean, just let's give a corollary, right? A lot of Jewish people fled, Europe, came over here also as immigrants. And there's a lot of criticism towards Jewish people in those movements, in those far-right movements. So I'm just wondering, as a Jewish woman, sort of how you feel about that and your role in cultivating this fan base that might think of you as a minority, an outsider.
Not all cultures are equal. Yeah.
So
she's like, yeah, those anti-Semites help me pay my bills. So, maybe they got some good ideas. That's so funny. DC Children's Hospital harassed over trans youth services. Yeah. In an audio recording posted Thursday by the conservative Twitter account Libs of TikTok, a Children's National employee appears to say that the hospital offers gender-affirming hysterectomies to minors. Since Thursday, the hospital has been the target of a large volume of hostile and threatening phone calls and emails, a spokesperson said in a statement to the Associated Press. The spokesperson also denied that Children's National performs hysterectomies for minors. None of the people who were secretly recorded by this activist group delivered care to our patients, they said. The information in the recording is not accurate. We do not perform gender-affirming hysterectomies for anyone under the age of 18. This, of course, does not stop Chaya Reichik's fan base from literally fucking sending bomb threats to the hospital and sending death threats to every single medical personnel there. The notion that this is a commonplace procedure that is happening all the time is completely and utterly made up. That's it. It's made up. What is the value in giving this worthless, irrelevant any oxygen? Why interview her? That worthless, irrelevant is a terrorist who just recently had a minted position in the Oklahoma Department of Education. So she is not as worthless and as irrelevant as you would want her to be. I agree. She is awful, but she is unfortunately not irrelevant. The only reason why the Oklahoma Department of Education gave her a position, for the record, is because she's transphobic. She has never lived in Oklahoma. I don't even know if she's ever stepped foot inside of the state of Oklahoma. She has only lived in Brooklyn and Los Angeles, as far as I know. So that's something to consider as well. And yet, she got a job. Former Brooklyn real estate agent and self-described stochastic terrorist Chaya Reichik, a.k.a. Libs of TikTok, is appointed to the Library Media Advisory Committee for Oklahoma Schools, a state she doesn't reside in. She also sometimes complains to Elon Musk, and Elon Musk defends her. So, unfortunately for all of us, she has no valid background to have this position at all. She hasn't even lived in Oklahoma. The only reason why she was put into that position is because she is a petulant, psychopathic, bloodthirsty, monstrous transphobe. That's it. Those were her qualifications for the position. It was a way to say, we stand with you. In the recording, Chaya Reichik, the Brooklyn real estate sales woman, whom the Washington Post identified earlier this year as running Libs of TikTok, poses as the mother of a 16-year-old transgender boy seeking gender-affirming hysterectomy. There in the clear, a hospital worker tells Reichik after asking her son's age. Later in the recording, another hospital worker tells Reichik she has a gender-affirming she has seen gender-affirming hysterectomies for children younger than your child's age. Comments on Twitter labeled hospital workers demons and groomers and called them to be jailed or worse. Earlier this month, doctors and staffers of Boston Children's Hospital reported receiving threats of violence. Just remember, guys, the bad guys are not the people sending bomb threats to a children's hospital. This is so comical that it's like something the Joker would do, okay? In a Batman subplot. It is like cliche. Issuing bomb threats at a children's hospital, I must be the good guy in this story. Holy fuck.
I know you have a lot of concerns about educational materials and books, library books and things, especially.
They're importing people who want to destroy America, and who
Who's
want
they? Haya? Who's the they?
who come here and do not stand for what America stands for. So, and I think, and we see it, there's time after time after time after time. They come in, they're destroying our cities, they bring crime with them, and they are bringing them in to replace us. And yeah, I think people from various countries, you know, they're all different.
So, you know, just back to the sort of education stuff, I know that you're interested in removing a bunch of books from libraries that you consider inappropriate. I was just wondering, out of all the books that you've sort of tried to get removed, how many have you read?
I've read a couple of them.
Which ones?
Gender Queer. I've read This Book is Gay. I've read Flamer. I've read, what were some of the other ones?
She didn't read any of those books, okay? It is also funny because, like, obviously, I don't even know if she knows how to fucking read, okay? But it is, once again, very funny because there is an incredibly high likelihood that she's also, and this does not mean that, like, all gay people in the closet are, like, the only reactionary homophobes and bigots are gay or anything like that. But there is a very high likelihood, all things considered, with her hypersexual obsession, her pathological sexual obsession with Taylor Lorenz, that she herself might also be an in-the-closet lesbian. There is a likelihood, like, straight up. And AOC as well.
My shadow is pink. It feels good to be yourself. There's so many more. Tons of them.
How do you kind of square? Would you say, I feel like you are...
It is a disservice to assume homophobic people are closeted because it deflects responsibility from hetero bigots. Oh, no. I often explain, like, Matt Walsh, not gay, okay? Just a straight, dyed-in-the-wool, aggro, psychopathic right-winger who wants to kill queer people, but is definitely straight, okay? Same with Ben Shapiro. Steven Crowder, however, you know. There are signs, is what I mean. Like, do you understand? Of course, the overwhelming majority of homophobic people are not gay. They're very much straight. Benny Johnson, gay. Steven Crowder, possibly bi. Definitely into cross-dressing.
Or at least I feel like you've spoken about free speech before and the need for free speech and sort of supported Elon Musk's sentiments in that area. Would you say that you're a free...
Could the same argument be levied on you, perhaps? Like what, that I'm in the closet? Why would I be in the closet? I'm very openly pro-LGBT. I'm currently in the process of defending LGBT rights. I have no reason to hide my sexuality. I talk about fucking dads all the time. Do I strike you as the type of person who is scared of their own sexuality? I wear dresses. Like, one of the more common things I hear from people is that, like, that I'm, you know, one of the more common things that haters say about me is that I'm actually a gay man, like secretly a gay man. Why would I keep that shit a secret?
Free speech supporter?
Yeah.
So how do you square the sort of being this free speech supporter with wanting to ban literature?
I do more gay shit than Austin, and he's gay.
What kind of literature?
Any kind of literature. I mean, I would think.
What kind of literature am I trying to ban?
Oh, I thought you were just trying to say you've made an effort to get books removed from schools.
What kind of books?
Books dealing with LGBTQ people and sexual
education.
That's not what I said. Oh, so you're not trying to get any books banned from school?
That's not what I said either.
Okay, why don't you explain to me how you're thinking about this?
You just accused me of wanting to ban books. What kind of books am I trying to ban?
You tell me.
I'm not trying to ban anything.
But you're not trying to ban any books?
Because I'm trying to ban books.
Are you trying to remove books from libraries?
From public school libraries.
Okay. So how do you square your sort of notion of free speech and free expression and allowing all of that stuff with wanting literature removed and wanting access to information removed?
What kind of literature?
You tell me.
Porn. Gay porn.
Yeah. And what do you consider gay porn in these books?
Gay.
So you want to see it?
Are you talking about the stuff that you've tweeted, basically? You consider
yeah, like there's pictures of like blowjobs and like how to have gay sex with like naked people and people masturbating and stuff. Yeah.
Did you?
Like pictures of it.
Oh,
yeah.
totally. And
yeah.
I went to public school. And we had a sex ed class in public school where we were shown, information about sexual health and, sex and masturbation and things like that. I'm curious about your own education. I mean, was that something did you ever go to a sex ed class, or is this all sort of new to you where you're sort of learning about how this works in public schools?
I don't live under a rock.
So you did have sex ed classes when you were growing up?
We had some kind of education, yeah.
So you do think it's important for children to have education, sex education?
Not the way they're doing it in public schools.
How are they doing it?
They're giving kids porn and telling third graders that they should masturbate. They're giving middle school children guides to gay sex and anal sex, sex toys.
How would you describe the type of sex education that you would like to see at schools?
At this point, I want all sex education actually removed from schools because I don't trust the schools to do it.
Okay.
After what we've seen, I don't trust them at all. Zero. We need to completely eradicate it and then redo it in a normal way that's appropriate.
So I saw you said that you got banned.
Okay, what is the normal way to do it? I'm sorry, but like I don't really want to know. Like I don't really want her dictating this kind of thing. Okay, I think that a good question to ask here would be, do you think that you should have a say in how we teach sex ed to children, or do you think professionals should have a say in the matter? Because it's like, why do you want to interfere in an area that like people who have literally trained for their whole lives and are infinitely more knowledgeable on? You are literally bitchless. Okay, here you are sitting with your incredibly long jean skirt that is like otherwise defined as a pant, a singular pant, unmarried and completely devoid of dick, and simultaneously bitchless too. You are a no pussy having ass. Why do you get to dictate how children should learn about sex ed when you yourself never got sex ed, don't understand why it's necessary, and have no formal training in this area at all? For those of you who want to know what I'm talking about, this is the woman who's like, I should be the one teaching children how to masturbate or whatever.
Banned from Stripe today. How much money did you have tied up in that platform?
I'm not going to get into that. They already restored me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're back.
Yeah.
I noticed,
Yeah, no, she has a lot of similar. It's almost like the entire conservative movement is based on policing things they don't know anything about. Yeah, exactly. It's like entirely fear-based. The fear of the unknown. Like, bigotry is the greatest way to deal with said uncertainty. You're like, oh, I don't fully personally understand this shit, but it scares me, so I don't think anyone else should even broach the subject. It's wonderful. The rare skjort is unhinged. I've never seen that, dude. This is like the first of its kind. Yeah, it's like if Cutie was deciding that no one can fly in a plane, so because she can't fly in a plane because she's terrified, no one should be able to fly in a plane. But Cutie Cinderella is not a reactionary psychopath, whereas Kaya is a reactionary psychopath, blessed with the bountiful, beautiful position of being a right-wing reactionary with hyper-individualism and American exceptionalism built to her very foundation. So it's the same mind that thought, I can wear this without falling on the ground and having to have with no exit strategy of getting up. Okay? Because honestly, when you fall on this, it's over. It's Jover. You got to roll home. You just got to have someone roll your ass back home because you ain't never getting back up. That's the very mind that thinks that they should dictate what children should and shouldn't learn about as far as sex ed at schools.
I think it was around last summer, you deleted a lot of your tweets and you kind of stopped posting. This is when Seth Dillon kind of tweeted, asking if you fell off or, saying that you weren't posting.
Rectangular rainbows are the boogeyman. You changed my brain chemistry when you described it as reacting to shapes and colors, because that's exactly what it is.
You used to. What happened during that time? And did you think about quitting?
I have no idea. And no, I never thought about quitting.
Why'd you delete all your old posts?
It was just a one-time editorial decision. I stand by all my posts.
I guess speaking of deleting posts, you still have a post up accusing the Uvalde shooter of being trans. Obviously, that's been debunked.
Yeah, there's a community note on it.
So why not remove that post if you're so comfortable with removing posts?
Because there's a community note. I think it's clear. It's obviously it was unintentional. There was a watermark on it. It was from a meme, an account that was going around. And I'm glad there's a community note so people know that.
Do you believe if, say, a journalist posts something factually incorrect or wrong, especially about someone else, if somebody was to say something factually wrong about you, do you believe they should remove that, or do you think they should be able to keep that content up?
Twitter is free speech.
Oh, gosh, she's so stupid. I love this shit, dude. Guys, why do I always yell at you to be normal? Why? This is why. Okay? If you don't check yourself, you might sometimes wreck yourself. What I mean by this is you don't like recenter your way of existence. Because it is very easy sometimes to find ourselves in like Discord servers or splinter Discord servers being reaffirmed on our sometimes unhinged propositions and framework. This is a perfect representation of like how that kind of hug boxing, that kind of like desperation for a safe space ends up with you unironically thinking that you're in the right when you are, one, so wrong, and two, just so incredibly dumb. She, throughout this entire 53-minute interview, she comes across as unhinged and also incredibly uneducated. Why is she confident enough to film this and then have her assistant send this footage to Taylor Lorenz? Because she thought she's doing great. Because she thinks, well, everybody hates Taylor. She's like public enemy number 1 on Twitter. Myself, public enemy number 2. So she thinks this is an own. She thinks she's cooking. One, because, you know, she thinks people will not receive Taylor in a positive way on Twitter because Twitter is a right-wing shithole, right? And she also personally thinks that she's owning her right now in this conversation because she's never had someone literally try and even pick apart, even cynically or in a constructive manner, pick apart her argumentation.
You know, people lie about me all the time on there, and they don't get taken down. If you want, it has to go both ways.
So you believe that people should be allowed to keep up wrong information about you and have no reason to be able to keep that up?
Free speech is free speech.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious how you square that with the letter that you sent this morning to V Sphere, claiming that, you know, you were going to try to sue her for slander. You know, if free speech is free speech, then why are you threatening your critics with lawsuits?
Well, defamation is different.
So would you call misidentifying a shooter's sexuality defamation?
No, I wouldn't. Like I said, there's already a community note on it, so I'm glad that people now.
And you admit that it's wrong, right? Was the Uvalde
and I wasn't the creator of that image.
Sure, but you can imagine if somebody amplified wrong information.
You know, the media, like Washington Post and other places, they lie all the time. They're never held accountable. They never remove it. They lie and lie and lie. So
she literally is saying major publications lie all the time and offer no retractions, which is incorrect, and simultaneously saying that's a wrong thing, but it's okay when I do it. Classic conservative position is, and we saw this with Donald Trump, which was like, I have every right to have all the classified information and documents that I want to and store it wherever I want. So it's a witch hunt that they're coming after me, but also they should go after Joe Biden, who should get the death penalty. It's awesome. In the same breath, she's like, it's really fucked up that the media is defaming people and lying, but it's not fucked up when I do it. And it's actually good when I do it.
I am not going to, if you want to hold me to that level, then I get to hold you to that level as well, and all the other media. So I just don't think, you know, we're not. You're
not being held to the same level. Mainstream media has to offer retractions. Now, you can talk about the efficacy of said retractions and whether or not that actually works in real time, like how many people see the retractions. Oftentimes, those are like very quiet retractions anyway, right? That's a thing you can talk about. But the notion that like they're not doing that is crazy because you're saying you're not doing that and you shouldn't do that.
It's not accurate to compare it because
was the Uvalde shooter trans?
The Uvalde shooter wasn't trans.
Got it. And so I guess knowing that you posted wrong information, you're saying it should stay up and everybody else should be allowed to keep whatever they have up as well. Is that sort of your stance? Am I accurately understanding it?
Is there a law against?
No, not asking law. I'm just asking your personal sort of opinion. I'm just kind of curious because it seems like you have come after other people, such as V Sphere and other critics, saying you posted wrong information about me, take it down. I totally get that. That's your prerogative.
It's different with defaming a journalist like that. They're defaming me.
And you don't think that calling a shooter trans when they weren't trans is defaming anyone?
No.
Okay, interesting. I guess
they're knowingly lying about me.
What?
And what would?
Wait, so I don't get it. She's saying it's defamation to like accurately report on what you have done? I don't understand. She literally simultaneously personally calls herself a stochastic terrorist, literally has that as like her Twitter PFP for the record, the article calling her a stochastic terrorist, and also celebrates that as an accomplishment openly while simultaneously saying it's defamation when you say it against me. What is it? Who's the other girl, the interviewer? I don't know anything about her. That is Taylor Lorenz, friend of the show, Taylor Lorenz, who is a real journalist. She used to work at the New York Times, now working at the Washington Post. And she wrote a book as well. She writes a lot about, she has written a lot extensively on online culture and things of that nature.
What would you say that you did when you sort of posted that about the shooter being trans?
Like I said, an image that was going around for months that I shared from another thing accidentally, and I'm glad there's a community note on it.
I know you come from a more traditional family and sort of a more traditional culture. What does your family and think of your success? You know, you've made a huge career for yourself. You're obviously a rising star in conservative media. How's that affected your interpersonal relationships?
I'm not going to get personal. My personal relationships.
Yeah. How's it affected your life? I mean, just dealing with this sort of fame relatively overnight.
So, I mean, thanks in partly to you, there's been a lot of like death threats, a lot of really nasty messages.
You seem kind of proud about the press that you've received. I mean, your profile picture is holding up a newspaper with you in the headline.
Yeah, a newspaper where they just basically lied about me. I thought it's funny that they just continue to make up these like lies and libels.
You've gotten a big, I mean, even if you discount the mainstream media and just talk about the conservative media, I think your platform has risen pretty significantly. What changes has it had on you? I mean, I cover the content creator industry, and I've seen a lot of people go from sort of a very low-key life, which I would imagine you're living before, to a massive amount of attention and, you know, money and powerful people around you. How has that affected you?
Like I said, some safety issues. In part thanks to you and to some other members of the media. But I'm not going to get into my personal life.
Oh, no, not about your personal life. I'm just wondering about your career aspirations. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
We'll see. You can make all the plans you want, and God could decide something else. So
you don't have any sort of 5-year plan, 10-year plan?
I mean, I have plans, but nothing I'm going to share.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, you know, if Trump was reelected, would you be interested in a job with his administration?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Who are you supporting in the election?
There's one candidate, Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Will you be campaigning on his behalf?
We'll see.
Would you prefer, I mean, are you hoping to kind of, I guess, like, would you see yourself in D.C.?
I haven't made any plans yet.
How did you get connected with Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, and how many times have you been to that state?
I was there once. They have, unfortunately, a lot of wokeness in the red state.
Wait a minute. The person recording this video is Chaya's assistant, and Chaya sent this video to Taylor. Is she really that delusional? Yes. The answer to your question is yes. I mean, she just described why. She just said Oklahoma is too woke. Yeah, she said Wokelahoma. I mean, this person's mind must be studied. I think this is, yes, chatter, she wearing one pant leg. Yeah. The wokest thing that come out of Oklahoma is the Tiger King. And the right is taking this as a win. They are Delulu. I think that's the point. That's precisely what I'm trying to talk about when I talk about like Twitter and how it is, as a matter of fact, not real life. A position that I have actually maintained for quite some time. Whether it be talking about like Bernie Sanders support and how that doesn't translate to like real world electoral outcomes or whatnot. Twitter is not real life. Of course, it's not real life. Twitter can become real life when people that are permanently online take the stuff that they see on Twitter at face value and then cover it in mainstream media, such as the reactionary nature of the Bernie bros, like all the news articles that were written about said things. But since Elon's takeover, it has become increasingly more right-wing. And therefore, since Elon's takeover, it has become a even less real-life situation. The only people who desperately cling on to it and try to make something out of it are people who want to farm right-wing reactionaries in their audience and want those people in their audiences because, you know, a view is a view, a click is a click.
And I'm trying to help.
How'd you originally how did Oklahoma get on your radar as opposed to some others?
Because I started posting about the stuff going on in schools there.
By the way, you have to understand something. What's happening here is not a debate. That's why Taylor is asking all of these questions. She is doing her due diligence as a journalist. I have to remind people, the reason why this looks bad for Chaya is not because Taylor is trying to make her look bad. Taylor is doing what Taylor does as a journalist, interviewing someone she is writing about. It's Chaya's responses that turned this into like a contentious situation. Isn't Twitter important? It's supposed to be important for journalists. It used to be, and to a degree it still is, but nowhere near at the same level as it once was. I am a power user of Twitter myself, as you guys know. I have relied on Twitter as journalists that are friends of mine are oftentimes investigative reporters breaking their stories on there. It's a great way to get a scoop and offer coverage in real time on things that are important. However, since the Elon Musk takeover, it has become worse and worse and worse. Twitter Blue subscriber Hasan, I am not a subscriber of Twitter Blue. Elon Musk gave that to me for free to dupe other dumbasses into buying Twitter Blue, thinking that that still is a marker for those who are of note.
You know, like I do across the country. And then, you know, people were very upset that this was happening in their schools.
So, and you've been once. What do you think qualifies you to be on the board or, you know, have to do with education, the education system there? Being that I don't believe you have children in the Oklahoma schools, you don't live in Oklahoma, you've only been once. How does that qualify you to sort of serve in that capacity?
What are the qualifications that they require to be on this committee?
USA Today reported on that, but I believe it was that you had to, oh God, I might get it wrong, but I think you have to be some sort of educator. You have to have worked as an educator.
Okay, I was a teacher once.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay. So you feel like that qualifies you to sort of inform policies in Oklahoma?
I wasn't aware of any kind of qualifications that they require. I don't believe they require any qualifications.
Yeah,
So.
I was thinking more even just informally, but that makes sense. I guess, you know, speaking of Oklahoma, obviously we saw the tragic death of Nex, you know, a young
very
child.
tragic.
I'm curious about your reaction. You know, you posted a selfie shortly after people were asking you to address the issue, and you said, you know, to the haters and the losers. Who were you addressing in that statement?
Anyone who hates me and anyone who's a loser.
Okay. Why would you choose to post that in response to people asking you to speak about this child's death?
It was not a response to that.
I guess why would you post that prior to making any statement about Nex's death?
So, just to be clear, you're trying to police me on when I'm allowed to post selfies?
No, just curious.
I wanted to post it. I thought it was a cute picture, and I just decided to post it.
How do you feel about Nex's death?
It's very tragic. It's horrible.
Do you believe Nex should have been allowed to receive gender-affirming care?
She should not be allowed to go on irreversible puberty blockers or get sex change surgery.
How do you think about the fact that, you know, so often your posts, things that you post about hospitals, libraries, schools, etc., you know, after you make these posts about them, they deal with threats, sometimes bomb threats, sometimes harassment.
We don't know who's calling in the threats. And I mean, look, bomb threats are bad. I said that 1,000 times. People calling bomb threats should be arrested and investigated. You can't call in bomb threats. But I just don't know what it does have to do with.
Well, I guess, you know, a recent NBC investigation found at least 33 instances where you posted about a specific person or institution, and that person or institution was immediately bombarded with death threats and violent threats, including bomb threats, other violent threats. That's a pretty significant correlation. How do you know, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if you saw, but I got like tons of death threats this week after the entire media machine came after me. So are they responsible for those?
I don't think that there's the same correlation. Are you receiving bomb threats?
I'm receiving death threats, like, hi, I'm going to come murder you.
Yeah, and I definitely sympathize with you there.
Like,
I get those
literally,
every day.
the article goes live, and then I get those threats.
I get the same thing when a Fox News article.
Me too. It's just like, you want to know why I think Twitter is not as like juiced up? Ironically, this is kind of a sad thing. So I've gotten fake canceled a million times over on Twitter, right? For a bunch of random, erroneous reasons. And usually I often look at the impact of said quote unquote cancellation with the amount of death threats that I receive in the real world. And the hilarious part about it is this is part of the reason why I was like, once I pulled up Tyler the Creator and just like logged off, I realized that if I'm not personally looking at it nonstop, I got very little death threats after that whole Twitter cancellation. Like, it was noticeably less, which kind of made me realize, like, oh shit, I don't think the impact that Twitter has is the same as it once was, because the amount of direct death threats I used to get after a cycle like this last couple of days, I actually waited ages to engage with your accounts because I saw cancellation rumors, and then when I looked into it more, there was nothing substantial worth canceling you for whatsoever. Yeah, I was glad to hear you feel that after returning from Japan. It is because this last round was more manufactured than normal? Probably, but I think it doesn't matter because most of the dramas that I find myself in are manufactured and silly in almost the same exact identical reasons. This one, on the other hand, I watched happen in real time, right? And was able to like show you in real time how it happened. And I think normally in that situation, when drama happens like that, there's definitely a lot more real world consequences. Didn't happen this time, regardless of the impressions, the supposed impressions on Twitter. So either A, we're getting better as a community and like dispelling the rumors and offering context, or B, Twitter is kind of losing their juice a little bit. I think it's just like a lot of bots. When you see something pop off from one of these like impression farmer accounts that are like stealing people's tweets for the most part, and you see them with like 100,000 likes or whatever, I don't think it's real. I don't think that that has like 100,000 real people that went, yeah, I like this a lot. Not responding, but monitoring threats and stalking is a tactic outlined in the gift of fear. Bro, why do you assume people care about context? They're just here to shit on you. It's not about context. I agree. The last take wasn't political. It absolutely is. What are you talking about? I'm a pro-labor socialist, and they're saying that I'm anti-work, like anti-workers' rights. It's like saying I'm anti-trans. You know what I mean? Imagine like trying to cancel me over being like Hasan is anti-trans. They have tried it. It's a laughable concept. It's like saying I'm not pro-Palestine. You know what I mean? Trying to cancel me to be like Hasan is not pro-Palestine.
Those lives. So is the journalist responsible? The journalist who posted the article?
I would say, you know, there's a different responsibility when we're talking about media. And I guess to me, a death threat is different than a violent bomb threat. A death threat, I think we're kind of getting normalized to them, unfortunately, online. We get a lot of them. Probably you and I get them constantly, 24/7. I'm wondering kind of how you think about taking these obscure people, right? Because you and I are both public figures, and I imagine you and I can both, we have a high tolerance, right, for what we can handle online. Say you're taking a private citizen, you know, a gay teacher, for instance, in a small town, and you post about that person, and then that person subsequently, who had no media presence prior, receives pretty violent threats. How does that make you feel?
We need to answer the question first, though. Is the journalist responsible for actions that have to happen after?
So you consider sort of your posts about private citizens, incendiary posts, you consider that journalism?
I'm an independent journalist.
Uh-huh. And do you think that there's a difference between doing journalism on a completely private figure that has no public presence and no institutional power versus reporting on a powerful public institution or person?
You still didn't answer the question. Is a journalist responsible for reporting for any actions that happen after the reporting?
Personally, I think that journalists should take care and should consider sort of the framing, and I think that they should do their best not to appear as if they encourage that sort of behavior. I've noticed that you haven't necessarily publicly condemned that behavior, publicly told your supporters, listen guys, stop calling in these bomb threats.
Who said it's my followers? Do you have information that it's my followers?
I guess who else's followers would it be?
I don't know.
So
there's 300 million people in this country.
So you post bomb threats follow, and you're saying it might be just unrelated people?
I have no idea. We don't know who it is.
Have you taken steps to find out?
We filed some FOIAs with police departments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What have you found?
We haven't gotten anything useful yet that we can use. But
what about the white supremacist shooter that said that had posts saying like this one's for libs of TikTok? There's so many of them. I can't even remember. Well, they said it was like a false flag though.
Actually, one of them we know it's like some foreign actor, not even from the country. So who knows who it is?
Yeah. It seems like Twitter is your main platform these days. Although I know you've been posting on Rumble. How much money have you made from the platform?
It's personal.
Mm-hmm. Is that what sort of portion of your revenue is based on Twitter as opposed to other platforms?
That's personal. So speaking of Twitter, do you regret not getting a blue check? Because then you can make tons of money.
No, I don't monetize online.
I don't monetize?
Yeah, I don't. If I was an independent journalist, maybe, but I'm not. I don't monetize on any of my social platforms.
I will be watching the genocide denial streamers from Noah Samson, a absolute banger of a video, I suspect, in a little bit after this.
I noticed you sort of, speaking of the media, you changed your approach recently, or at least it seems like you're being a little bit more antagonistic towards the media and a little bit more forceful in the way that you speak about the media. What led to that change?
Being lied about and defamed for 2.5 years.
I guess what led to, I would assume you felt like that for quite a while. What led you to sort of change the way that you speak about the media, or the sort of...
Well, their attacks were ramping up. So, like I said, the lies and the defamation, the hypocrisy.
If you eradicate transgenderism, which I believe you suggested in a post today.
No, I never suggested that.
Oh, okay. You reposted a post that was advocating for that. What would happen to the people that have already medically, socially, completely transitioned and are leading happy lives? What would happen to them? I mean, what...
This part is, I'm gonna slow this down because this part you need to hear in the way that it happened. What the wait, what? Breaking. French President Emmanuel Macron says sending Western troops on the ground in Ukraine is not ruled out. Holy moly. That's wild. This is like, okay. Let's continue with this. But dude, it's wild that the French position went from we don't want to succumb our autonomy by being a NATO country. We don't want to give up our autonomy as an independent nation by becoming a NATO country to like, we are actually potentially going to officially sanction as a NATO nation troops to Ukraine. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not making any predictions, boys. Emmanuel Macron is so insane. Macron has no sway in NATO. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
transgenderism, which I believe you suggested in a post today.
No, I never suggested that.
Oh, okay. You reposted a post that was advocating for that. What would happen to the people that have already medically, socially, completely transitioned and are leading happy lives? What would happen to them? I mean, what's your plan for that? If transgenderism doesn't exist, which it seems like that's what you believe, what happens to all the people living happy lives as trans people?
Well, first of all, the whole trans it's based on a lie. You can't change your gender.
Okay, but
so they could go live their life. I mean, I can't tell someone what to do in their house.
Sounds like you do want to tell people what to do in their house.
I never said that.
So you're totally okay with people being trans, just not as long as they're in public?
No, I never said that. They could. The whole thing is based off of a lie, and I think that
she has no answer for this. This part is like one of the most damning aspects of this entire interview, and it went viral on Twitter as well. Who's to say that sort of thing has any sway whatsoever? But I did personally think it was very interesting that this is like a fundamental plank, a fundamental position that she has. And she has so much conviction for it. Bloodlust, I would say. And yet, for some weird reason, she hasn't even like interrogated her own views on the matter. It's wild to watch her buffer and hit a reset. Like Matt Walsh would be able to answer this question, okay? It would be nonsensical. It'd be hokum. It would be ridiculous. But Chaya Raichik is a uniquely dumb and delusional person that she can't even answer it.
That this lie cannot be mainstream in our society. It's a lie.
And what harm is it causing, do you believe?
I like the truth. I like truth.
Right, but I'm saying what's the harm of people expressing their gender identity differently than you believe it to be? What harm are they causing?
Like I said, we are a nation of truth, and I seek the truth.
But I'm asking about the harm. What's the harm? You might believe it to be false, but what's the harm?
The harm is that there's a lie that is very mainstream and is being embedded into every institution.
I guess I'm wondering what the material harm is. Aside from it's maybe something that you disagree with, as in your version of the truth is different than their version of the truth. What is the material harm of them living their life as a woman or man or a gender that you don't agree?
Not anything that's wrong is there a material harm necessarily.
So there's no harm?
I didn't say that.
So can you name a single harm?
The way that it's pushed onto kids, first of all.
What's pushed onto kids?
Gender ideology, transgenderism.
But if they're leading happy lives and they just are leading a
Well,
different...
there are studies that show that they're more suicidal after transition.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, there's a study out of Sweden.
That is not true. That is not true.
Yeah, you can look up the study.
Well, taking into account all of the happy people that have transitioned, who are not harming anyone, you can't come up with a single material harm?
So if someone says, I'll be happier if I'm blind, should a doctor pull their eyes out?
I think that's quite different than gender ideology, but people do, I guess.
Someone says I'm happier if I chop my...
Wait, what the why would you compare? Wait, what? Why would you compare medical procedures that genuinely alleviate pain, okay? Whether it's psychological pain or in some instances like physical pain even, to like personally disabling yourself. That is insane. You can't say that. You could technically make that argument about every medical decision. Okay? Because that's what it is. That's simply what this is. Gender reassignment or getting on HRT or puberty blockers is a medical decision. Okay? That is fucking nuts. That is actually crazy to make that comparison. But once again, there are obviously plenty of instances. There are obviously plenty of instances where there are enough people in her fan base that think that this is a brilliant argument, so it might as well be, right? As long as she stays in that pocket. She goes outside of that pocket, and all of a sudden it's like people are looking at her like, wait, what? That doesn't sound right at all. Unless she personally thinks being a woman is a disability.
My dick off, and we should just let them do that.
I think, there's a lot of gender affirming care that women do.
Right? Yeah. People with type 1 diabetes just don't make insulin, so why should I poison them with insulin, sweaty? It's fucked up.
Right? I mean, women ascribe to certain gender things. You see women getting boob jobs to affirm their gender. I mean, we're in Los Angeles. We see this kind of gender affirming.
So again, you're comparing boob jobs and nose jobs to
they're gender affirming.
Being, buying into the lie that they could change their sex.
Breast enhancements are gender affirming for women. There's a lot of women that feel small chested. They feel like it would be gender affirming for them to have plastic surgery, and they're allowed to do it. And I noticed that you don't critique that. I guess I'm curious, Haya, you know, there are a lot of people that have ideas about women, right? And about what makes a woman, right? What makes a appropriate woman? How should a woman, you're saying you're against people sort of like living lies or living outside this ideology that you've constructed. Some might say, look, we're both women over the age of 25 working, I certainly don't have kids, you know, they might consider that not okay for a woman. Do you think it's up to do you think it's okay for them to dictate how, you know, you live your life as a woman? Do you think it's up or sort of where does that line get drawn?
So again, you're comparing boob jobs to a teenage girl chopping off her breasts?
Well, first of all, teenage girls get boob jobs, but breast enhancements are gender affirming for many women. I'm asking you, why is it that people have to live under your sort of view of gender? And
it's not my view, it's science. It's facts.
It's not. This is the greatest lie that conservatives have been able to delude themselves into thinking, is that they are in any way, shape, or form defending science. They are not. And because science is oftentimes very unapproachable and hard to comprehend, a lot of people don't look any further than their own blind delusions. Okay? Conservatism always is historically anti-science to begin with, but especially in recent years, I would say in the past few decades, conservatives, and Ben Shapiro used to do this all the time, adopted the motto that, like, you know, facts not feelings. We are actually the ones with the facts. And it's really interesting because they are literally operating on feelings. Nothing that they advocate for is backed by science. Nothing that they advocate for is backed by science. As a matter of fact, the overwhelming majority of people who have the appropriate information on this matter will voluntarily go out of their way to inform the public against their deliberate efforts to misinform the public. It is wild, though, because while in the past I feel like you just say the Bible told me so and that's the reason, right? Nowadays, at least conservatives have adopted the position that this is not like a biblical reason, even though in reality the reasoning does come from the Bible, okay, for them. It is quite interesting that they have maintained the position that they are the ones who are actually presenting real science, especially when it comes to gender. It's wild. I'm doing a PhD in bioinformatics, and everything we know about genetics show gender is non-binary. I'm tired of transphobes using my own field to push bullshit. I mean, it's funny. They deny climate science and have done for a very long time, okay? They deny the science on gender and biology while simultaneously claiming that they are the ones who are championing biology, okay, which is ridiculous. They deny the science on COVID, on its impact on a population. They deny the science on vaccines. They deny the science on everything. And yet, we're supposed to sit there and be like, yeah, no, the dumbest motherfuckers you've ever seen are hyping each other up, so we got to sit there and act like they have anything worth a damn to say. It's crazy. I guess if enough people are flat earthers, then yeah, we just got to act like flat earthers have a point or something. Like, I don't know.
It's biology.
But biology, if we're talking biology, there's a spectrum of gender. There's people that are intersex.
That is a rare medical condition that has nothing to do with someone deciding that they could.
It's not a rare medical condition. Intersex is as rare a medical condition as like being a redhead is, okay? There are more intersex people on the planet than there are Jewish people. There are more intersex people on the planet than there are redheads. What the f are we talking about here?
Could be the opposite gender.
I guess I'm still kind of struggling to understand how you think, if your view, say tomorrow Trump is elected, he says, all right, we're going to all live by Haya's, you know, decisions, right? What about all these happy trans people that are living their lives? They're not harming anyone. What harm are they doing by living their life as a woman who've medically transitioned? They're adults. You know, I understand you have problems with kids, but with adult trans people, what's the harm that they're doing to society?
To society, they're spreading a lie that is affecting children also.
So you just believe gender is a lie. And what if somebody said to
Trans, you can't change your gender.
And what if somebody said to you, you know, you're not a real woman. You're not a real woman because maybe you don't meet these certain specific definitions of femininity.
That's fine. I don't care. They can call me whatever you want.
But what if you would be forced to live by that system? Do you think it's fair that you would, you know, be forced?
Is that based in like science?
Well, I don't think any of it's really based in science.
Well, it is.
Gender is a social construct.
Well, gender is actually made up.
Exactly. Yes, we agree on that. We agree.
By a child predator, by a pedophile.
We don't agree.
Yeah.
We don't agree on that.
So he made up gender, and now they conflate the two, and they use it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So like, what? Men and women didn't exist then before the dude? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? What? I mean, this is a person who literally thinks that like stochastic terror was a designation that was created specifically for her. So she's saying one guy invented gender is so funny. It's like there's been a concept of third gender in India long before in many other places around the planet, as a matter of fact. Long before any doctor or anyone that she thinks invented the concept of gender. In America, with Native Americans, Two-Spirit.
To basically
like the easiest way to describe gender being a social construct is literally look at any other culture outside of the United States of America, or look at the United States of America. We are a melting pot. There's hella people from other places. Look at the way people from other cultures and other countries present themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it's the clothes that you wear. It's the way that you express yourself. One quick example is like what is considered as like, you know, peak of like sexy manhood in a place like Korea versus, I don't know, peak sexy manhood in like a Latin American country or the United States of America, as a matter of fact. The concept of gender has changed. Like gender norms have changed dramatically throughout time, even in this country. Look at the founding fathers. Those motherfuckers were wearing powdered wigs and shit. The fuck are we talking about? Dudes were wearing skirts. Dudes were wearing high heels and makeup and powdered wigs. Like, what do you mean? Like, does that not signal anything in your mind? Like, that doesn't help you understand that this is all like completely made up?
And kids. So there are actually two sexes, and there are 0 genders, and there are many personalities. That's what I believe.
Okay. You know, a lot of LGBTQ people say that your posts cause an enormous amount of pain. How does that make you feel?
How does it make you feel that your reporting on me causes me pain?
I feel sad for that, honestly. Yeah.
So would you stop?
No, I'm a journalist and you're a public figure. But I'm just talking about, you know, these non-public figures, right? These non-public figures that are...
Well, if you put yourself out there on a public platform, then you're kind of making
So
yourself
anybody
public.
that posts on social media is a public figure in your mind?
If you're putting your videos out there with the intention that it should go viral, you want publicity.
So if somebody's posting on social media, which inherently posting on social media, you're looking for attention, right? You're saying that meets the bar for a public figure?
I'm not a lawyer.
But I'm asking your opinion.
I think that these people, well, first of all, a lot of the people I post about are actually in positions that are public,
but
teachers,
I'm talking about the people
doctors.
that haven't, right? The individual private citizens that you've posted who are not, I would argue they're not public figures. You're saying they are public figures because they're posting on social media?
They want to be public. They're going on a public platform and publicly posting a video on a social media site that is meant for your videos to go viral.
And what about Twitter? Would you consider Twitter as well a platform where stuff is meant to go viral?
Every social media. If someone posts something on social media,
I don't think she understands that she's like personally walking into a trap, I guess, where like the point is you are bringing about death threats upon like random individuals while simultaneously complaining about like death threats that you receive, shouldn't you be the first person shouldn't you be the first person to not put the spotlight on others if you personally recognize it? Like you recognize the damaging impact of it, you know? It's like if I was sitting around constantly seeing ads at the top of the hour, which I don't, I'd be a little more reluctant to serve them at the top of the hour. You know what I mean? Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. But I don't see them because I'm subscribed everywhere I go. You can be like me and no longer recognize the top of the hour ad break by subscribing for $5 or for free with Twitch Prime, Mr. Cookies and Chaos, and run the ad break, bish. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. 34MKD50, thank you for the 50 community gifted subs. Just an ad break now. God damn. And about 5,000, thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well.
It could go viral. It's always a risk.
Got it. So when you were building your audience and had hundreds of thousands of followers, then would you also agree that you were a public figure?
I think that if anyone who puts something out there publicly, anyone could share their stuff.
Got it. And so, but I'm saying you consider these people, LGBTQ people, who are just posting on social media, public figures.
I said I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the legal
definition.
Honestly, the problem isn't that like she's highlighting their videos. Let's be real. She isn't just highlighting their videos, right? She is massaging the narrative and then also simultaneously defaming those people. Like, I'm a Twitch streamer. I am a public figure, right? When I personally talk about the trials and tribulations of being a Twitch streamer and how my social battery runs out, let's say, right? After a 9.5-hour stream in this totally unrelated, random hypothetical scenario, okay? That's something that I'm communicating to my audience. Now, that can be received in 2 different ways. That could be received in a way where people are like, oh, okay, I get what you're trying to say. Like, you know, it fucks you up and you're comparing it to your own personal experience as a salesperson, as like a client side salesperson. It's just like, and even factoring in that like there are service jobs in the service sector that are also people-pleasing jobs, like client-facing jobs that are going to cook you in comparison to some of the other real-world jobs that are probably very difficult in other ways, soul-crushing in other ways. Now, that's one thing you can talk about. Or you could just be like, Hasan says that Twitch streaming is much more difficult than a real job. Now, of course, when you present it in that other way, you are trying to deliberately, 1, massage the narrative, and 2, get these people to be, get people in your fan base to go in and yell at this individual. Now, I'm a public figure, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me all that much, right? There's not really much I can do. It's just how it is in this made up scenario. But it is really fucked up when you turn around and call that person a pedophile groomer, okay? And that person is not a public figure. Since we're on the topic, XQ's editor is now literally clipping you from 2 days ago, implying it's from today. Who gives a shit? Again, get your money up, kings. You know, YOLO. Have fun with it. Stop drama farming. I don't give a shit about these nonsensical things. It doesn't matter. Since we're on the topic. Yeah.
Opinion. One thing you noted, and I'm only asking this because I know that you noted that you know, when I reported on you, that you felt like it was unfair and that you didn't meet the bar for a public figure. So I'm just kind of wondering, as somebody with such a large social media audience, you're saying people with much smaller social media audiences meet the bar for a public figure. Wouldn't you have considered yourself a public figure?
If anyone puts out content publicly, then that content could go anywhere. That's what I believe. You know, it could go viral. Anyone could share it. It could go to the wrong side. You know, what they call the wrong side of TikTok. Yeah. It could go, you know, people will see it. You can't control that. Mm-hmm. That's why they hate me, because they want to create this content and they only want their bubble to see it. And then I'm like showing it to other people and they just can't handle it.
I think you're editorializing it as well.
No, I provide very little commentary, probably the least from any other Twitter account that's even a quarter my size.
Let's talk about drag shows. You know, you've come out a lot about, you know, you're very against drag shows. Can you give any examples of children being harmed from drag shows?
Yeah, there was one where this mom was saying that her kid decided to be non-binary after watching the drag show, and then the drag queen helped the kid buy like new clothes to be non-binary.
And you consider that harmful?
Yeah, well, because non-binary is made up. Like, there's no such thing as non-binary.
Okay, first of all, once again, you can't be talking about what people can and can't wear, as you are currently wearing a jort. Not even a jort, but a just skirt, a pant, a jean pant, a singular pant of jean. Okay? I will take anyone else's a jurt, I think. I will take anyone else's opinion on what people should and shouldn't wear over whatever the you got going on. Lady, get the out of here. Half a Jinko. Exactly. Is she wearing a t-shirt of herself crying? No, she's wearing a t-shirt of Taylor Lorenz crying, which also is very normal stuff. It's just super normal to do.
And then it just leads a kid on a path where probably they'll end up in a hospital getting some other body parts chopped off.
You seem very against plastic surgery. Are you against?
Well, I'm against sex change surgeries.
What about women that want to get their boobs done, want to get their nose done, want to get cheek implants?
We're just going to go in circles.
Well, I'm just curious.
But it's good to note that you're comparing nose jobs to teen girls getting their breast chopped off.
Well, teen girls also get boob jobs to make their breasts bigger, right? So both are gender affirming in different ways. You seem very obsessed with one and not interested in the other. So that's kind of what I'm interested in. And I guess I don't really.
Wait, she's not openly anti breast surgery for like she thinks it's great. That's crazy. Listen, when you live in Los Angeles, as she did, she probably grew up with a lot of teenagers that went and got rhinoplasties and boob jobs at the age of 16. So obviously she can't be out here talking shit about that. You know what I mean?
I understand that because both are gender affirming in different ways.
I don't call it gender affirming care. I call it sex change surgeries for people who are sold the lie that they can change their sex.
Where do you sort of hope this will end up? You know, like all of this sort of the advocacy that you're doing. I know you said you don't have a 5-year plan for yourself, but what are if you were sort of like going to describe your platform? What are some things that you'd like to see meaningful changes in terms of policies, laws?
Oh, I want to eradicate gender ideology from public life.
From public